India, over the years, has gone through an assortment of empires led by various rulers. Each empire had its own unique characteristics that made it its own, while it further evolved from the previous dynasty. Arguably, the most beneficial dynasty in this area was the Mauryan Empire, ranging from the time span of 322 BCE to 185 BCE. Not only is it notable for being the first of all the Indian empires, but during this time period, Buddhism took its roots in the southeast and continued to spread its influence. Another trait distinctive to its ruling was its peaceful rule relating to its Buddhist beliefs, and unlike surrounding dynasties. To be able to operate an empire on peace, intrigue others, and persuade leaders from other locations to look into the teachings that the Mauryan Empire had successfully instilled. Yet to understand how the Mauryan Empire adopted a religion and made it popular far from its origin in Greece, one must become familiar with its history. The many leaders in the continuously expanding boundaries provided a booming environment for Buddhism to reach many people. From this basis, art, lifestyles, a peaceful society, and thriving economy resulted as a byproduct from the spreading of knowledge. Chandragupta Maurya's determination made him the first in the families to rise up and eventually found and rule what would become India's first empire. He was the first leader to be able to unify the various small kingdoms that dotted India's landscape from 322 BCE to 298 BCE. Though he was able to build a thriving empire, Chandragupta had many obstacles to reach that status. The early years of his life were associated with violence, with his first exposure of it while meeting Alexander the Great in Taxila. Alexander the Great's army had made its way to the city in northwest India to challenge the Nanda dynasty. Though considered an empire, the Nanda dynasty only spanned a small section of India, limiting its overall power. Chandragupta, determined to halt the advancement of Alexander's army from invading India, composed a plan to join the forces of all the small kingdoms. To his disappointment, the leaders of the small kingdoms refused to collaborate their armies and were unwilling to put aside their egos to work with the rivals. Nonetheless, Chandragupta persisted in attempting to bring together the rulers in order to save India from foreign control by seeking help from the Nanda king, Dhanananda. Once again, an agreement was not reached, and a new approach was deemed necessary. A teacher by the name of Chanayaka came to the support of Chandragupta. He had been expelled from the Nanda court by Dhanananda and was seeking revenge on the empire he had been loyal to. With these two men together, they needed an army to challenge the Nanda Empire. Chandragupta found help from the Himalayan king Parvavaka, who provided his army in order to attack King Dana. With an army consisting of Greeks, Scythians, and Bactrians, Chandragupta and his men made a full-fledged attack that was said to be besieged from every direction by the forces of Parvata and Chandragupta. Following this victory, Chandragupta had taken out the most powerful kingdom in all of India and was ready to take charge. Chandragupta found it necessary to expand the boundaries and influence of his empire to eliminate competition and remain in power. In order to achieve this lofty goal, the small remaining kingdoms needed to be taken over. To help him in his conquest, Chandragupta had inherited all the Nanda army that he had defeated, increasing his power. From the center of the former Nanda Empire, known as Magadha, Chandragupta's troops ventured to northwest India to defeat the remaining army Alexander the Great had left and commanded in the region. With the successful defeat of Alexander's remaining men, the area of concern was in central India, where a small kingdom was located under the rule of a man named Seleucus. With the reputation of violence already evident, Seleucus struck a peaceful deal in which he would receive 500 royal elephants to step down. Chandragupta readily accepted the deal, furthering his ruling across much of India. By the end of his reign, he had connected India from as far as Kashmir in the north, Afghanistan in the west, Bengal in the east, and everything but the Deccan Plateau in the south. India was now under one main ruler and was able to flourish under the consistency of a uniform government. With the abolition of small kingdoms, the Mauryan Empire was able to take strides to substantially boost India's economy. Prior to the Mauryan dynasty, India was not considered to be an appealing destination to attract foreign trade. Under the rule of Chandragupta, notable exports such as silk goods, textiles, and foods began to draw in consistent trade from the Silk Route north of India. To regulate this new form of business, a currency was introduced depicting a wheel and an elephant on a silver coin. The acceptance of the coin across the expanse of the empire allowed ease of trade and encouraged trade with foreigners. The initial development of the Mauryan Empire was ruled by violence, but by the end of Chandragupta's reign, he experienced a personal change stressing higher morality. Without the assertiveness and violence Chandragupta used to create his empire, there would be no dynasty. Yet there was no escaping the past, and Chandragupta realized some of the downfalls in the routes he took to succeed. To balance his shortcomings, he began to adopt the teachings of Jainism, a practice that preaches spiritual independence and equality of all life with emphasis on nonviolence. He was so moved by its teachings that he gave up his power to his son Bindusara in order to give complete devotion to Jainism. Nonetheless, the Mauryans had set their roots and were poised to remain in power for generations to come. The next ruler, Bindusara, had relatively little impact in the Mauryan Empire, but managed to keep its power on a consistent level. Unlike his predecessor or his eventual son who would take his throne, Bindusara did not have the ambition to find ways to improve the empire. Perhaps the citizens of the Mauryan Empire noticed his weaknesses, as is evident with several revolts in the city of Taxila. Bindusara was able to expand his empire to the extent of the east coast to the west coast of India. He, however, did not initially make an attempt to defeat the region of Kalinga, a kingdom that continually feuded with the Mauryan Empire. To fix the problem, Bindusara sent an army led by his son Ashoka to tend to the matter. Clearly outmatched, the Kalinga kingdom crumbled and was forced to submit. The decision on who would follow the reign of Bindusara between his sons proved to be a crucial decision on the future of the empire. Ashoka the Great would become the eventual emperor who had the most impact on the dynasty's advancement and the teachings of Buddhism in Southeast Asia. Born into a family with many male siblings, Ashoka tried to compete to make an impression on his father Bindusara. As it turned out, it was not difficult for Ashoka to make positive impressions on his father, angering his older brother Prince Susima, who was expecting to become the heir to the throne. In an attempt to rid his brother's chance of competing with him, Susima suggested Ashoka test his might in the rebellious city of Takshashila. Susima was the governor of the city and knew of its dangers as a result of his poor management. Seizing the opportunity to make yet another lasting impression on a challenge, Ashoka successfully regained control of the city. Susima was sent into a rage upon hearing the news of his brother's success, and Bindusara felt the need to send Ashoka into exile in Kalinga to remain safe. Ashoka would remain in Kalinga for 2 years, hiding out from his brother. As Ashoka matured, his ego and false presumptions would shadow his decisions leading up to and in his reign. Bindusara became ill soon after Ashoka returned. His absence from the family harmed his chances of taking over the throne more so than Ashoka had expected. To his surprise, Bindusara was poised to select Susima to run the empire. Ashoka was so jealous of being rejected that he killed Susima and all of his brothers except for one. Now there was no choice but to continue the family lineage of emperors through Ashoka. Similar to the reign of Chandragupta, Ashoka expanded his empire on the basis of violence. He stretched his reign out towards current-day Bangladesh in the east and Iran and Afghanistan in the west. A significant battle occurred in Kalinga, a battle that would end up altering the emperor's outlook on life. Ashoka requested that Kalinga and his people submit without a fight, yet the king refused. Taking it as a lack of respect for his power, Ashoka retaliated by sending the largest number of troops in India's history up until that point in time to attack. It would prove to be his final invasion, as a new conception of ruling would take his priority. The dramatic aftermath of the attack on Kalinga moved Ashoka to the point of changing his violent ways, and Buddhism would lead him to a peaceful approach. Devastation and death littered the scene following the battle with King Kalinga so much that Ashoka became ashamed of the invasion and the similar ones he had promoted in the past. He had remembered the kindness and some of the concepts of Buddhism through a pair of monks who had taken care of him after he was injured during a battle in Ujjain. Buddhism had begun to trickle down the Silk Route by trading merchants and took on with some of India's inhabitants. Ashoka decided to adopt the ideas of Ahimsa, which preached nonviolence, and the Dhamma Vicaya, known also as the teachings of the Buddha. This newfound philosophy ceased